Hello everyone and welcome to Inside Sports. I'm your host Todd Blackstock. We have an excellent show for you today as we will visit with and check out 3 generations of sports and iconic moments in St. Louis history with photographer Brad Arteaga. Plus the St. Louis Rams are turning things around with their new head coach Jeff Fisher. Also, our Inside Sports crew has been on the scene and will show you exclusive video, sound bites, and special moments capturing the transformation of this once glorious franchise. And what 2 brothers from Missouri battled it out during the 1964 Cards versus Yankees World Series? Find out in our Inside Sports Flashback. So stick around for this and much more coming up next on Inside Sports. And welcome to the show. After 5 tough seasons, the St. Louis Rams brought in veteran coach Jeff Fisher to restore order, stabilize the team, and hopefully bring the Rams back to prominence. Along the way, myself and STL TV's Jay Hollinger have had the opportunity to go behind the scenes and capture exclusive footage of the 2012 Rams' first 3 home games versus the Redskins, Seattle Seahawks, and the Arizona Cardinals. Let's take a look. Along with new coach Jeff Fisher and new general manager Les Snead, the Rams now have a new attitude in St. Louis. As the Rams enter a new generation under Jeff Fisher in 2012, they had the opening day promotion, the Jeff Fisher mustache. I thought I had a great mustache, but check this bad boy out. During the opening day 2012, the Rams came out with a bang. Danny Amendola leads the charge with 12 receptions in the first half, tying an NFL record. Veteran Steven Jackson shows he's still got game. An electrifying rookie Daryl Richardson adds to the Rams' arsenal. The Rams traded away the pick that would have been Robert Griffin III. And Chris Long and the Rams corralled him in. Are you gassed from chasing the quarterback around all day?
Yeah, he's a heck of an athlete. He's tough to bring down. So, you don't have to play guys like him every week, thank goodness. But he did a good job for rookie week 2. He really does have some good composure. We took a couple punches today throughout the game, on both sides of the ball, and we just persevered. I think this team's a lot more resilient than last year for whatever reason. I think it might be our youth. Guys are just a lot more resilient. If you haven't experienced all hell breaking loose when it used to, you're probably not expecting it to. So guys are fearless, and we just kept grinding.
Backup tight end Matthew Mulligan blocked a punt and scored a touchdown in a backup role.
Anything to help the team. That's what it's about. It's not about me. It's about the team. And whatever you can do to help your team succeed and to get that W at the end of the day, that's what you need to do. When you have a coach who's confident, who's intelligent, and who also knows how to win, I think it trickles down to the rest of the guys, and we just have to find a way to win. Marshawn Lynch and the Seahawks come to town, and the Rams give them everything they have. Rams kick holder Johnny Hecker throws a touchdown pass as Pete Carroll tries to call timeout on a field goal attempt. Rams rookie kicker Greg Zuerlein kicked 4 field goals in this day, setting 2 Rams records with field goals from 58 and 60 yards.
I was on the headsets and I caught, said field goal. And somebody said, field goal? I said, yeah, it's only 60.
I made a 74 with a lot of wind in college.
You approach like a 30-yard field goal and a 60-yard field goal the same? Because a lot of times it seems like kickers will try a little harder on the long ones and maybe shake a little bit to the left. Is it so with those?
No, for me, I try and kick the ball the same every time, whether it's a PAT or a 60-yarder. Otherwise, I feel if I try and change things, I'm going to end up messing things up. So I just try and hit the ball the same every time.
In the end, Bradley Fletcher comes up with this interception and stays down on the ground to preserve the victory.
Coach Fisher was talking about how heads up you were at the end of the game when you stayed down on the field, not trying to make a huge play and maybe you risk a fumble or something. What do you attribute that to?
Just being smart. We talk about situations all the time with Coach Fisher, and after I was able to make that play, I just knew if I stay down, this game's over. You don't gotta risk anything, and we go ahead and think about Arizona.
And you knew they were coming after you too. You guys on the defensive side there. How'd you prepare for that last drive? Because it could have come right down the last second.
Yeah, we had to make a play. We we were only up 6, and 7 would have lost us the game, so we had to make a play.
So the Rams clip the Seahawks, and the beast, Marshawn Lynch, disappears into the gallows of the Edward Jones Dome. Both teams gathered for a post-game prayer. 53,000 fans there today. Still room for 10 more thousand, but they were loud, and the crowd seems to be coming back a little bit here as the team improves. And you're 2-0 at home.
Right, yeah, hopefully if we put the product on the field, they'll continue to fill these seats, and the fans over here did such a great job of getting behind us and making noise. And, we got to continue to prove that we're playing football worthy of them coming out and watching us.
Week 5 of the 2012 NFL season for the St. Louis Rams was a very special one. First, the Arizona Cardinals are in town, and second, this is the first primetime game for the St. Louis Rams since 2007 versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. When the football Cardinals come to town, it's always a special day for fans in St. Louis. Former Rams from the greatest show on turf are in town with the NFL Network. Super Bowl MVP Kurt Warner led an all-star cast covering this national broadcast, including former NFL Most Valuable Player Marshall Faulk, along with Michael Irvin and primetime Deion Sanders. Warner also brought the Arizona Cardinals to their only Super Bowl berth, and the classy Rams organization honored Kurt Warner during the contest. Aeneas Williams was a star for both teams as well, and he, along with a fraternity of former St. Louis Cardinals alumni, bask in the glory of St. Louis sports past. Bill Bidwell, donning his infamous bow tie, was the man who moved the Big Red to Arizona. He reunited with former Cardinals head coach Jim Hannafin and the man who was once coined the NFL's dirtiest player, Conrad Dobler, shown here holding court with his football family and reaching out to honor those celebrating Cancer Awareness Month. NFL Hall of Famer Roger Worley was on hand, as was former NFC rushing champion Jim Otis. On this day, Chris Gibbons electrified the crowd with this long touchdown pass from Sam Bradford. But Cardinal All-Pro Patrick Peterson tried to keep then undefeated Arizona in the game with this spectacular interception. But Chris Long and the Rams' defensive line sacked Cardinals quarterback Kevin Cobb 9 times en route to victory for the Rams. Did you feed off the crowd today in this one?
Oh, yes, for sure. It's always a business to have a home game. Y'all got the crowd, which is
Everybody seems pumped up when you come in, on third down situation, you're so fast. What element do you bring to this team that you really think that as the season progresses, you can really maintain?
I'm going to change the pace from Jack, obviously. Just explosive.
As the season progresses, what are the Rams going to do?
We're trying to get better every day. Hopefully we can win a championship.
At the end of the season, we'll see where it happens with me, but, something is happening here and I want to be a part of it.
Well, it looks like Jeff Fisher and general manager Les Snead had the Rams going in the right direction. Iconic photographer Robert Arteaga moved to the United States in 1918 from Madrid, Spain. While living in St. Louis, he acquired a fondness for preserving memories.
When he got interested in photography, he decided that to freeze history at that particular moment. And every picture he took, he put a date on it.
While freezing history, Arteaga was actually making it as well, capturing pictures of early pioneers in aviation like Oliver Parks. This picture of Charles Lindbergh was taken by Arteaga in front of the Spirit of St. Louis shortly after being the first person to fly across the Atlantic Ocean from New York and landing outside of Paris, France on May 21st, 1927. Shortly after that, Arteaga took a job taking pictures at the old Sportsman's Park on Grand Avenue in North St. Louis.
He, from 1930 until 46, he was at every game. I mean, every game. So I used to not like baseball because every time he wanted to go somewhere, he'd say, hey, I can't go today because they got a doubleheader. And I go, what about tomorrow? Well, the Browns are in town. I even got a first name of Eldon from a baseball player named Eldon Arteaga, who was on the Browns through a submarine ball.
Arteaga was on hand when the Cardinals won the 1942 World Series. And again in 1944, the Cardinals and Browns played in the Streetcar Series during World War II. After being a fixture for decades at Sportsman's Park, Arteaga had made quite a name for himself in photography. And with his jovial personality, he found himself hobnobbing around town in the early days of TV. When celebrities came to town, Arteaga was right there in the midst of visits by Johnny Carson and the Rat Pack, shown here with Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis Jr. Arteaga hung with fellas like Bob Hope and covered performances by Liberace. He shot this photo of Stan Musial, Jack Buck, and Joe Garagiola, signed by Stan the Man. And when World War II ended, Arteaga was on the scene, capturing this celebration on Washington Avenue in downtown St. Louis. He even befriended Teamsters icon Jimmy Hoffa before his disappearance. With all his credentials, he was the obvious choice to embark on what was the most famous project, the documentation of the Gateway Arch. In 1947, Finnish-American Eero Saarinen won the competition and contract to build the Gateway Arch. In 1959, Arteaga received this letter from Saarinen encouraging him to photograph the arch. Then Vice President Richard Nixon was so impressed by Arteaga, he sent him a thank you letter after visiting St. Louis prior to the groundbreaking of the arch. Arteaga began taking thousands of pictures of the area prior to the construction when the grounds were covered with buildings and a homeless village called Tent City. Arteaga took these groundbreaking photos of the arch and was on hand every step of the way. He was right there at the top of the arch when it was completed, and his son Eldon was alongside as St. Louis made international history celebrating the Louisiana Purchase, the gateway to the West, and his beloved St. Louis.
Well, my dad was so involved with St. Louis. He watched everything grow up and down there at the riverfront when the arch was going up, and most everything he ever did was involved with St. Louis itself.
Robert Arteaga was a wonderful photographer, a loyal St. Louisan, and a great man. Joining us now in studio is the grandson and third generation of Arteaga Photos, Mr. Brad Arteaga. Brad, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Wow, what a grandfather. I mean, growing up in a family with your dad and your grandfather taking photos, it must have been quite a treat. And what was it like as a little kid just running around the house?
Well, especially on Monday when you go back to school and you say, what did you do for the weekend? Well, I was with either baseball players, football players, and our golf tournament with a bunch of celebrities, and they're like, yeah, right. And then on Tuesday morning, they have 8x10 black and white pictures with you and all the celebrities. So,
I guess when it was show and tell time, you were right at the top of the class. Huh?
That was it.
Now, towards the end of that piece on your grandfather, there was a shot that said, Eldon's right here. So actually, your grandfather and your father were both on top of the arch when it was completed. I'm sure over the years they've talked at length about that day, and it was kind of a difficult day too because the arch didn't really want to cooperate on that last day, I understand.
Sure. They actually wanted to set the piece at nighttime. That's what the engineers all wanted. And so at the last minute, Mayor Cervantes says, there's no way that you're going to do this at nighttime. We want the world to see this. So this was we were on the stage. So he decided that it would be done in the morning, and then in the autumn or the fall time, on October 28th in 1965, the sunlight started to come up, heat up a little bit, and then twist the arch just a tad. And that's why they had to spread it apart and get the water to shrink back.
So. Wow, that's amazing. Well, not to be outdone, your dad and your grandpa were both on top of the arch, and there's a great photo of you that you gave us with you on top of the arch as well. Now, how did you manage to get your way up on top of the arch?
Well, I wrote the Department of Interiors knowing that that they change the light bulb once a year. So I know that the hatch is open, wrote them to see if it was okay if I took pictures of them changing the light bulb. So we have a book that shows the images of the arch going together, and this was going to be one of the images that were going to be used in the book.
Wow, that's fantastic. Now, we talked a lot about your dad and your grandfather. Now, your Uncle Wayne, your dad's brother, was also a very prominent photographer as well. Can you tell us a little bit about Wayne? I know he's passed away.
My uncle passed away about 3 years ago. He was more the studio type person. He was a very good product photographer, very good architectural photographer. Not too much of the go out and have fun type person. He was a darkroom guy, but he enjoyed car racing. Drag racing. He's still a national record holder in several different classes that aren't around anymore, but he's still up there. He's in the Drag Racing Hall of Fame. So
wow, that's
pretty neat.
So there's also a famous composer in your family as well that just did some great scores and music. And can you tell us about him?
Sure. He wrote the song called "Blue of Evening." His name was Alfonso Arteaga. He was my grandfather's brother. He wrote the music. The Blue of Evening, Frank Sinatra sang it in 1940, brought it to #1. That started his love into music. And he also he was part of the NBC chimes. So when you hear the ding, 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 he was part of that.
No kidding. Wow, so quite a pedigree with the Arteaga family. Brad, looking at a lot of the pictures you've taken, I mean, you're in the third generation now. Technology's changed. There's a lot more things you can work with. But I've noticed that you like to take to the sky, the aerial views. What is it about the aerial views that you like so much, and what does it bring to the table?
Well, I think my grandfather and my uncle flew, so would take aerial photography. But my father didn't like to fly, so I seized the opportunity when my uncle decided that he didn't want to do it anymore. So I gave up on the little planes and started flying in the helicopters, and you develop a love for the helicopters. And I like the image that you can get from there is something that not everybody can do. Not everybody can fly, or they get sick or whatever. So I mean, just the architectural wise of that I like that.
What are some of your favorite aerial photos that you've taken, of the city?
Probably I have one of the downtown that it's kind of a fisheye, and it shows the whole downtown. It shows the curvature of the earth, and I think it embosses everything. It goes from the Chain of Rocks Bridge almost down to JB, and it's just, you can just see the street scenes and everything down there.
So I guess with your dad and grandpa, being so involved with sports and photographing images throughout St. Louis over the last 60, 70 years, you were probably one of those kids that tagged along a lot. I saw some pictures. Were you like a ballpark rat at Busch Stadium when you were growing up?
Well, my grandfather was kind of out of the baseball photography by the time I was growing up. My father didn't really get into baseball too much. But the image of Jack Buck and I, when I was a young child, he was there for cystic fibrosis, and he used to do a lot of golf tournaments for cystic fibrosis. So they were down there shooting an image or something, and I asked Jack Buck for an autograph. And this is what he did to me. He tried to shove the ball in my mouth, just joking around. So.
Oh, that's hilarious. There are some cool shots, too, of like some golf tournaments with Al Raboski and Jackie Smith, Jacober, Jay Randolph. Those kind of bring you into the 70s era. Going back just a little bit, I understand that the Sid Solomon family, the original owners of the St. Louis Blues, they had a contract with your grandfather as well, and he did a lot of work down at the old arena and the Checker Dome, and if you'd like to talk about that a minute.
Sure. The Solomon family they were looking for an outside image of the arena that they were going to start for promotion. So hockey was new to St. Louis at the time. It was in 1968. So in 1968, he took a shot of the inside. They liked it. They decided that they wanted to do something else. So he shot the shot that was in 1970 that it just shows a halo over the arena. And the shot sat in the basement for 25 years. And when they started talking about where they're going to tear down the arena and put up a new ice rink down at the Savvis Center, I brought the image out and thought, we're going to give this a whirl. There's an 8x10 or a 16x20 print. And today there's over 15,000 of those prints out there. People just love the black and white. Yeah.
There's also a tremendous story about a tornado, and I believe it was 1958, that actually tore the roof off the arena. What do you know about that?
Well, we have images right after the tornado, and it was February, I think it was like February 29th or February 28th of 59. And it took the front, one of the towers off the arena, and some of the 2x4s that held, or 4x4s that held the roof on, and took also the Channel 2 tower down, and that's why it was always at half.
Wow, so that's amazing. So what else? I mean, we've had a lot of All-Star games and World Series here. It seems like baseball's been very, very good to the Arteaga family. Most notably in, I believe, 2009, we had an All-Star game here, and I know you were all over that covering it. Can you tell us about the experience and some of the great shots you got?
Sure. The Cardinals, we have a unique relationship with my grandfather. When he started in 30 to 46, he was their team photographer for the Cardinals and the Browns. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, Cardinals history goes back pretty good. So you develop other relationships within the Cardinal management. And they wanted a architectural shot of the stadium showing something along with the All-Star game, so they could choose an image to make a huge print to sell, to document it. So we designed we shot an opening ceremony with the flag on the ground, and everybody down there, and then, you know, the stadium filled, and then we put the buttons of each All-Star game that was here in St. Louis.
No kidding.
So it turned out nice.
That is really cool. And there's been a lot of different stadiums come up, from Sportsman's Park to Busch Stadium 2 to the new Busch Stadium. You guys documented all that. And talking about a lot about the arch, there's shots that you guys have of downtown coming up in the mid to late 60s. And it's pretty tremendous when you see all the action going on back then.
Well, back when the arch was going together, there was over 35 cranes that were working in downtown St. Louis, building different buildings. And you think about, you know, now you see, you know, if you see 2 or 3 down there, it's a lot. And to imagine, you know, the amount of over 35 cranes working all at once on different buildings. It was the Pet Milk Building, which is, and then the Stover's Inn, the parking garages, the Busch Stadium, the Arch, and Peabody, Cole's buildings, the mansion houses, they were all going together.
I think
all
Highway
at one
40
time.
and 70.
70 was coming in through
Poplar
there.
Street Bridge.
It's everything.
Gosh, that is so amazing. Also, the World Series. We've had a lot of World Series here in St. Louis, and there's a great shot of you. I believe you're like standing on the roof of the new Busch Stadium before the 2011 World Series. Can you describe, how did you get up on the roof like that to take such a great shot?
Well, we were up there for with the opening night. I was up there with them for the Secret Service, because Michelle Obama came in, so the Secret Service were up there. So I went up with them and watched the game, and we needed a few shots from that, you know, so we could have something for the Cardinals if they wanted to use it in a game day magazine.
Yeah, talk about Game Day Magazine. Your pictures are featured in Cardinals Game Day Magazine, usually 2 or 3 a year. Can you maybe tell us about some of your favorite photos that made the cover?
Probably some of that made the book, or, you know, some of my grandfather's shots, you know, the early stuff, because it was such a difficult time in photography. I mean, you're trying to shoot sports when film speed was so slow. It was like 6 or 8. So, I mean, so it's, now you have shots that, you know, film speed's over 800. So that's the old way in film. But, you know, and then you're looking down through a camera that everything's reversed. It's upside down and backwards. So a guy's running at first, you're looking at him going this way. And it's, you know, to be able to get those shots are pretty neat.
I know you're a huge supporter of Guns N' Hoses as well. That's fantastic. And the city of St. Louis has recognized Arteaga Photos several times. Before we let you go, can you tell us about some of the awards and proclamations the city has done for you?
Well, we had a proclamation after my grandfather had passed away. It was Robert Arteaga Day in 1982, and he got recognized again in Freedom Foundation Award. That's what it was, and another proclamation. And then my father also received the Freedom Foundation Award.
Wow. Well, Brad, congratulations on your great success. You're doing a fantastic job, continuing in the 3rd generation. And head on down to Eddie's Donuts in South St. Louis. Brad, you're involved with that as well. And thanks a lot, and congratulations for all the great work you've done for the city of St. Louis.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. All right. It's Brad Arteaga. Well, it's now time for our Inside Sports Flashback.
In 1964, St. Louis, Missouri, located along the banks of the mighty Mississippi, celebrated its 200th year as a city, and the Cardinals beat the New York Yankees in the World Series. Along the way, two brothers from Missouri were on their way to making Major League history. Ken Boyer was a 7-time Major League All-Star and 5-time Gold Glover at third base, and was named the National League's most valuable player after the 1964 season. His close friends remember him as a humble man.
Kenny was a kind of a quiet guy. He never bragged about what he accomplished in baseball. He knew what he did. He was the kind of a guy that he knew it. He knew you knew it. What's the sense of bragging about it? You know, beautiful ball player, a great third baseman, and a hell of a hitter.
Clete Boyer played third base for one of the great New York Yankee dynasties, winning 5 American League and 2 World Series titles from 1960 to 1964, while playing with such greats as Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle, and for St. Louis native and Yankee skipper Yogi Berra. Clete played against his brother Ken in the '64 series. In Game 4 of the '64 series, the Cardinals were down 3-0 when Ken Boyer came up to the plate with the bases loaded.
Boyer smashes it deep to left field. It might be out of here. It could be. It is a home run. A grand slam that's fair by only 5 or 6 feet. Ken Boyer, joyously saluted by his mates, is only the 9th player in history to hit a grand slam homer in World Series competition.
In Game 7, the Boyer brothers would make more history as Ken homered for the 2nd time in the series, and in the 9th, Clete laced one out for the Yankees, making Ken and Clete the only brothers in World Series history to hit home runs in the same game. Ken Boyer died prematurely of cancer in 1982 at only 51. And when the Cardinals retired his number 14 jersey in '84, the family had a special present for longtime friend Charlie Gito.
When they retired his number, his kids turned around and gave me the shirt, you know, with his name on it, the number, his jersey, and I took it and I put it in a frame. I have it up there in front over there.
And the memories of the Boyers will live forever, proudly displayed on the walls of their close friend's restaurant, Charlie Gito, in downtown St. Louis.
Gibson, Boyer, and McCarver join in a big bear hug. The Cardinals are the new world champions.
Well, that's our show for today. We hope you enjoyed it. We'd especially like to thank the St. Louis Rams and Arteaga Photos for these fantastic pictures, especially the one over Brad's shoulder showing the arch in 2002 when it was first lit. And we thank Arteaga Photos for all their help in promoting Inside Sports as well. Well, thanks for watching the show. We'll see you next time.